So if anybody's ever truly wondered why I am the way that I am, this was one of my top 3 favorite shows as a child. Hi everybody, welcome back to A Well-Read Nerd. I'm Amber, and today I'm going to be talking about a forgotten TV show. Yes, I know I promised you guys that this would be the first one of the year. That didn't happen. I actually filmed this before. I'm refilming it again because I messed up the audio. Whatever. Specifically today we are going to be talking about a Canadian children's television show that was produced by YTV from 1999 to 2002 and ran here in the States on Fox Saturday mornings. If you're too young to remember Fox Saturday mornings, it's basically where they put all the kid appropriate stuff on like Fox, like first thing in the morning on Saturday. It started at like 7 or 8 and ran until about noon or 1. Sometimes they would get a little bit more like teenagery geared. The later in the day it went, it was, you know, the old time slot where you used to watch Thundercats and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sometimes was My Little Pony? No, My Little Pony had to get Disney for. I remember because I bugged my parents to get a Disney subscription just so that I could watch My Little Pony. That's beside the point. We're talking about a different show today. This TV show was a little weird. And by that, I mean it was just a little weird for the time. It specifically followed a teenager who plays sports, who got bitten by a werewolf, and goes along with his nerdy, zany best friend while they hunt down the monsters that are plaguing their small town. At the same time, he's going after a girl who is way out of his league, honestly, even as a sports player, who's smart, funny, charismatic, athletic. And it basically follows them until they go off to college. Now, I could have just described to you either the show I'm actually talking about or Teen Wolf. That's important. Put a pin in that. I'm going to briefly talk about it. I don't think the two are correlated. It's one of those things of, you know, happenstance happens and correlation is not causation. So I'll talk about that briefly. But no, what I'm talking about is Big Wolf on Campus. It ran for 3 seasons. Like I said, initially on YTV and then congruently, as far as I remember, on Fox Kids. It didn't give me dates for the air times for Fox Kids when I looked at the Wikipedia, but that would be about the time when I was watching it, like the beginning stages of like junior high through like junior high school, which lets you know how old I am. In any case, it specifically follows a football player named Tommy Dawkins. Hey everybody, Editing Amber busting in for just the weirdest coincidence I found while I was editing this. There is actually a real life football player named Tommy Dawkins. They look nothing alike. I'll throw up the pictures, but yeah, it was just super weird while I was editing this. Okay, back to the video. His nerdy best friend named Merton Dingle, who's also a goth. And then throughout the first season, and then I think she left in season 2. You have Stacy, who's the love interest, but Stacy as the love interest is replaced by Lori, who's like a transfer student who's sort of the quasi love interest, but that fizzles out quickly. So you get like the teenagery dynamic of this show. The cast of characters were pretty much nobody knew who they were at the time. They weren't really doing much beforehand, and in all honesty, a lot of them haven't done a lot since then. Some of them have done some other Canadian broadcasting things. Love me the CBC, even though I can't get it right now without paying out for the app. Some of them have done things more domestically. Brandon Quinn, who played Tommy Dawkins, I'm sure if you see him, he's one of those faces where you go like, hey, he's been in some stuff. He has been in some stuff. Danny Smith, who played Merton Dingle, the nerdy, gothy best friend, again, has been in some things. Had actually a pretty successful regional music career. Actually did the theme song for the TV show for Big Wolf on Campus, which I'll insert here.
I used to own this town, now it's all turned upside down. I wish I could figure out, do you
And then Ami Castle, Ami Castle, who played Lori in seasons 2 and 3. Not an overabundance, see her cropping up a few places. And then arguably the most famous person from this, who was later also famous for being replaced, is Rachel Lefevre. If you don't know who that is, have you ever noticed between the first Twilight movie and the second Twilight movie, the redhead changed? This one's Rachel Lefevre. That one is, I think, Bryce Dallas Howard, but I'll put their name underneath there. I have faced blindness when it comes to white chicks sometimes, especially when they have the same hair color. But anyway, yeah, this show basically was a serialized show. So each episode was mostly self-contained, like, you know, a normal sort of, not really kid show. It was definitely geared, I would say, probably towards what my age demographic would have been at the time, which is like the junior high age. Because it did deal with a lot more, like, not really dark, but darker themes with the episodes. Definitely some things that would have been considered scary, probably for a younger audience in like that 9-10 range. And I'm even talking by 90s standards. Well, there's episodes, like one of the very first episodes deals with people getting their hands like scanned in a bookmobile, which, by the way, kids, that's a thing where the library used to have a van. They used to come around, you could like check out books, and then you went back on. Like, you checked it back on to the bookmobile, and then they took it back to the library. That was a thing. I'm not sure if those still exist or not, but they were a thing at the time. Anyway, you scanned your palm, and, like, she would turn you into a book. And then at the end, like, they defeated her, and they scanned her palm, and she ended up in a book. Like, they put on a shelf, and that was it. So that kind of, like, kid-appropriate death. Because, like, there's no way she's getting out of that. There's no way she's alive. It ended at the episode that they realize that something happened to them and they don't feel good on the other end, which leads me to believe that you could die inside that book. But you get the idea. There's stuff dealing with like time manipulation and monsters. There's a hellhound that makes an appearance in an episode. There's an invincible best friend who pops back up. That's Merton's invisible made up friend from his childhood who like comes back to town and terrorizes them for a while. Like, you get the kind of thing that like the show was. And it actually ran for quite a considerable number of episodes. It actually ran for 65 whole episodes, all taking place during their senior year, which meant an episode in real time happened about once every couple of days. Because I don't remember them ever mentioning Christmas or holidays or any actual time passing. I'll get into why I'm talking about why I remember. But yeah, this is the general overall gist of the show. And it has largely fallen into obscurity to the point where I have tried several times to get my hands on episodes, and you can find episodes of this. This isn't like a Mockingbird Lane scenario where you can't find anything. No, if you go over to YouTube, you can find some episodes over there. Back in the fall, when I was still working full-time, I found a YouTube channel that was basically uploading old Canadian television, which is also where I found episodes of Under the Umbrella Tree. Does anybody remember that? I thought I made it up, but it was real. Just Canadian. And apparently I was the weird kid growing up here in the States who only watched Canadian television. But whatever. That YouTube channel is now defunct. I tried to go back to it over the holidays, and then I was like, well, maybe it's coming back in another form. I checked their social media. Nothing. It is now bloop, gone away. So actually finding episodes of this are hard, but you can find episodes. And there's one fan curated one that has some low res episodes. I think the first 2 seasons that I found on YouTube. I'll link that down below so that you guys can go take a look at the episodes and see the madness that I'm talking about. But for a long time, this show wasn't available anywhere. Like, literally the only things that I can see that people have been able to get a hold of is old like VHS copies that have been changed over to personal DVD copies that are then loaded up online. So the quality is terrible. But this has never been released for home distribution. It's not on VOD. It's not on streaming, at least not in the United States. If any of my watchers are from out of this country and it is available somewhere in streaming, let me know. I don't have a VPN right now, but I was looking at investing in one of those next year anyways. It's not available like on Vudu or anything like that, like any pay, to watch things, Amazon, nothing. I can't find it in any of those places. it sometimes will tell you they're available, and then you go there and it says that they're not available in your location, and I am located in the continental United States, so not available here. However, again, if you live somewhere else, you might be able to find these through a streaming service or through like purchasing through Amazon or whatever. If that's the case, let me know. Like, just let me know. I'm curious. And because this thing had sort of fallen out from like any kind of knowledge for a long time, I, for several years, thought I made this up. Like, I went to college and tried to explain this show to friends, and they thought I made it up. I'm not that good of a writer. Like, I'm okay. I've been getting back into it, but I don't think I'm good enough or have enough mental health issues to have completely fabricated a show like this. But still, at the time, couldn't find it. It was nowhere to be found. Even like Wikipedia articles at the time were very, very slim on details. But I did find a community of people who latched onto this in, you know, I'm going to say fanfiction. There are currently 120 some odd fanfics over on AO3. There's about that much, a little bit more over on FF.net. There used to be, back in like the early 2010s, some not message boards, but like community boards and stuff, especially in Tumblr, that were still alive and well, that were sort of like little hidey holes for like people who want to talk about the show. I couldn't find any of those through doing my research, but FF.net and AO3 are still flourishing. And I actually stumbled across those ones because I didn't even think to look in those fanfiction communities when I was looking for this. Like, I did the standard Google, like, go through all of that, which is silly because I spend so much of my time on AO3 anyways. But I did stumble across it in, ironically, because I was talking about Teen Wolf at the beginning, a crossover fanfiction between Teen Wolf, Supernatural, and Big Wolf on Campus. And yes, it sounds weird, but surprisingly, it all played together really well. I'll link it down below. It's actually not a bad read. They managed to cohesively tangle together all of the mythos from all three shows and make a believable narrative. When they were getting ready to abandon it, and it has since been orphaned, they were kind of coming to what I think was their brick wall of being able to cohesively combine them together and keep the narrative going. But it is like a cohesive story. I think their biggest problem with that, though, is that they tried to run like congruently for seasons with Supernatural, and they hit the Sarah Gamble years, and those were just a mess. And if you ever want me to go into why Sarah Gamble was arguably a worse showrunner than Eric Kripke, and I hate him too, I'll go into that. But that's beside the point. So yeah, so through that fan fiction, I discovered that there was still a thriving community of fan fiction writers in this, you know, weird little niche show still around. Now, they were specifically slash fanfics, and they were specifically about Tommy and Merton, but you know what? Say what you will about the internet and myself, but Golden Retriever energy matches so well with goth energy that it works. Like the all-American football player goth who's in the nerdy stuff, like, I mean, it doesn't matter what their gender is, the internet has proven those things just go together like this. So the fact that the internet has paired up these two teenager boys together in fan fiction doesn't surprise me. Now, there's not much in canon that would back that up, but you could read into the double entendre and the fact that we would have to deconstruct toxic masculinity in order to be able to really go into why we consider two males showing affection to each other has to inherently be romantic or sexual, but that's a story for another day. That's not what this is about. But yeah, the show was very interesting. It covered a lot of different monsters of the week. It covered a lot of very weird topics. There were some like PSA type things in there about like bullying and drugs and peer pressure. There was arguably one about pregnancy, but it was because one of the male leads, Merton, got knocked up by an alien, and I do mean like knocked up. So there's some M-preg in here too, like lots of things that like definitely wouldn't fly today. Like somebody like whatever parent advocacy group has their panties in the wad this week would definitely be like going like, how dare you show this to my children? But at the time, my parents just let me watch it, so like they frequently get eaten. They're both teenage hornballs who are always chasing after women who either want to kill them to get them out of the way because they're putting a foil to their plan, or straight up just want to eat them because they're monsters. Which it is of itself is sort of a brilliant allegory for a teenage boy, which is, if it's pretty and it pays attention to me, I'm going to ignore the fangs. But yeah, overall, a very interesting show, and a very much of its time show, because this was running around the same time Charmed was running. This was running around the same time Buffy and Angel were running. There was actually, for a super deep cut that probably nobody who was born after like 1997 would get, Port Charles was on the same time, if anybody remembers that. Oh, and Passions. Like, Port Charles is arguably a deeper cut than Passions, but it was a soap opera about vampires. In any case, tangent off on whatever my brain is taking me. Yeah, this show has basically puffed out of existence. Like I said, you can't find anywhere. You can find IMDb pages for it. You can find some people that have uploaded episodes, but there's been really no drive or interest in making it widely available for people again. Now, I mentioned Teen Wolf in the beginning, and I gave that vague description because I think in some ways, even though Teen Wolf was named after the Michael J. Fox movie from the 1980s, I feel like the creators of that show watched this show. Like, this was their going off point for a teen drama. There's just so many things that are similar that weren't in the original Teen Wolf movie, or even the second Teen Wolf movie, because yes, they made a sequel to that. I have it on DVD. Like, I think that somebody on the show watched it and was like, I like these elements, and so they worked them into Teen Wolf. Now, Teen Wolf is by no means like a copy and paste of this. It's its own entity, its own show. But you can sort of see it as a spiritual successor to Teen Wolf. But yeah, that's it. That's my big old spiel about Big Wolf on Campus. I will say I really wish they would release this for mass consumption, whether it's VOD or put it on streaming somewhere here in the States, because I do think it's got a kitschiness to it, than the sort of that nostalgia-ish, even if you didn't see it, of it feeling very much like the 90s, that I think a lot of people would enjoy it, especially as a binge watch. Well, 65 episodes is a bit more than binge watch, but you can definitely spend a couple of weekends just picking and choosing which episodes you want to watch, because they are so serialistic, so you can just like skip ahead if you're not interested in an episode. But let me know, did anybody see the show growing up? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Are you now interested in going and finding it? Like, just let me know. Like, this is one of those conversation videos where this is something I'm super excited about and want to talk about, and I want people to, like, talk to me about it, so please do that. Like, anything about it, like, if there's something that you found interesting, if there's something that, like, you know, if you want me to link the fanfiction, I'll link what I already have, but you can find the rest. It's on AO3, just type in Big Wolf on Campus, or actually go through the fandom tags and you can find it easily. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today, and with that, I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye. So you made it to the end of the video. I'm going to do my plug here. If you like my t-shirt, today I'm wearing a I Like Books and maybe 3 people, which is about true for my life. Maybe 3 people. 3 people is lucky. You guys can go ahead and head down to the description below. There'll be a link for Wicked Whimsy Boutique. That's where I got this shirt from. And there'll be a code, WellRead10, and you get 10% off your order. Now that you can use that code again and again up through June, because that's when my rep deal is with them. I do not make money from you guys using my code. However, for every 5 of you lovely people who use my code, the company does send me a free t-shirt that I was probably going to buy anyway. Really, it's just a way of me giving back to you guys. They asked me to do it. So, you know, if you want to do it, you can. They've got stoneware mugs. They have blankets. They have not just t-shirts. They have other things, tank tops. It's owned by the author J.L. Vampa. I've done a review for a box from them before. You can buy her books directly through the website instead of going through somebody else. And yeah, so if you want to support an author in a small women-owned business, just go ahead and check it out. And like I said, use that code down there, WellRead10, and you guys get 10% off. Just remember, it's only good until June 2023, unless they pick me up as a rep again. So if you're watching my video past then, I mean, you could try it. Maybe they still left it in the system. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching to the end of the video.